This is the second part of our lesson in preparation for learning the Pythagorean theorem. So this is the number sense portion of the lesson. So we're going to look at multiplication. We're going to look at squares and square roots right up to the number 144. So the first task I'm going to ask you to do should be a familiar one. I'm going to ask you to construct your own 12 by 12 times table as outlined below. So maybe pause that, take a few minutes, and write out all of the products that would go in here. So the word product is the word we use in math for the number that you get when you multiply numbers together. So as you fill in your table, it's going to be things like 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, and then you keep going. So you have things like 3 times 2 is 6, 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is 12, and so on. So as not to make the video take too long, I'm not going to write the whole thing out in front of you. I just have one sort of pre-made. But when you're all done, your times table should look just like this here. Now, I would prefer you turn off this video and you finish that times table for yourself, because it's very good practice to do so. But it's going to go up to 12 times 12. And have a look at these diagonal numbers here, the numbers along this diagonal. These are sort of a special case. We call these the squares. And you get them from multiplying the same number by itself. So they're already highlighted. So for example, 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is, oh, I'm in the wrong spot there. 4 times 4, which is 16. Or 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25. And the way we write 4 squared is we write a 4, and then we write a really small 2 up here. That's an exponent. So that 4 to the exponent 2 is pronounced, or we say 4 squared, and it means 4 times 4. And 4 times 4 is 16. So if you were to say try and find 9 squared, then you'd look for 9 times 9, and then line them up on your table. And 9 times 9 gives you 81. So 9 squared is equal to 81. Again, I don't expect you to be there this quick. I want you to take a little bit of time and complete this table on your own. And then maybe when you're done, you can highlight the diagonal line so it looks just like this one down here. Then in the practice questions, you're being asked to, first of all, find some of these squares. So for example, 3 squared, if you look over at your table, if you don't happen to know it, 3 times 3 is 9, so 3 squared is equal to 9. 6 squared, 6 times 6 is 36. So 6 squared is 36. And then in the next set of practice questions, you're being asked to add some of the squares. So for example, here I've got 2 squared plus 7 squared. 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. And 7 squared, 7 times 7 is 49. So what that means is that 2 squared plus 7 squared is the same as 4 plus 49, which is 53. Now, this is a very key step in the Pythagorean theorem that we're going to learn next lesson. You're going to have to add squares. So we're going to practice that. There's a few more in your D2L, and I would like you to complete all of those and then put them in the Dropbox. So to show you one more example here, 6 squared plus 4 squared. Well, 6 squared is 36, and 4 squared is 16. So 6 squared plus 4 squared is 36 plus 16, which is 52. And if you find that a bit tricky, you might want to write it out this way. So you've got 36 plus 16. 6 plus 6 is 12. And then we've carried the 1. 3 plus 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. That gives us 52. And then the last section of practice questions, you're being asked, what is this the square root of? So when we see 25, we look along the diagonal for 25 and find the number that must be multiplied by itself to give you 25. So the answer to that one is 5. So we say the square root. So I should not write 25 is equal to 5. The square root, and this is the symbol for it here. The square root of 25 is equal to 5. And the square root of 144 is the number that when multiplied by itself gives you 144. And that answer is 12. Now, let's say I was asked the square root of 133. So let's say we've got 133, and we want to know what is the square root of 133. Using this table, we're going to look along the diagonal, but unfortunately, we're not going to find 133. What we're going to find is it jumps up from 121 all the way up to 144. 11 times 11 is 121, and 12 times 12 is 144. So the square root of 133, all we can say at this point is that the square root of 133 is between between 11 and 12. So that's going to be 11 point something. And the precise answer is that the square root of 133 is 11.5. It actually turns out to be equal to 11.5. And I'll show you as we're doing the Pythagorean theorem in the next lesson how to use your calculator to find those values exactly. So please finish all of the arithmetic question in the second section of this lesson, and post all of your answers into the Dropbox for Tuesday, July the 7th in D2L. Thank you.